Hello everybody and welcome to Project Trade. This is the trading highlights show, all the best bits from our testing of trading strategies. Today we're on a technical trading strategy which is going to leverage two technical indicators to try and find some trends for us. Our first indicator will be the 80 period simple moving average, the simplest of all moving averages, hence the name. This is an example of the visual that we can expect to experience once we throw it onto the chart. Our simple moving average, it just adds together all of the individual prices from the last 80 periods and then divides that total by 80. And secondly, we'll be using the relative strength index. That's right, the RSI is going to use its momentum to jump us onto those trends. Might seem counterintuitive, as traditional teaching would likely lead us to using indicators like the RSI for reversal trades, but it's certainly becoming more common to flip that teaching on its head. Here's what the RSI is going to look like. It's a single line range bound oscillator with a maximum reading of 100 and a minimum reading of 0. We're using the default period input from Wells Wilder, which is 14 periods. Classically speaking, the levels would be set at 70 and 30, but we've set the levels in our example here as what we're going to be using when we go live, which are the 60-40 levels. We have made videos on both the relative strength index and the simple moving average, which are linked in the description if you'd like to learn more about either of them. But for now, let's find out how we're going to use those indicators to determine our actual entry criteria. The 80 period simple moving average will be used as our filter for the overall market trend. So when price is above the 80 period average, we're only going to be entering buy trades, and when price is below the 80 period average, it will just be the sell trades. And then when it comes to the RSI, if the simple moving average is telling us to take buy signals, then we'll enter a buy trade when the RSI first closes above the 60 value. If the SMA is leading us into sell signals, then we'll hop into a sell trade when the RSI first closes below 40. Here's a solid example of a decent entry that we've cherry picked out. The price shifts above the moving average, giving us the go ahead to get into buy trades, and the RSI reading gets above 60 as well. Even if you weren't in immediately on that candle and got in on the one after, there is still a run on price which should see you into profits, unless of course you're the epitome of greed. Which does bring us to the fact that unfortunately we are also going to have to manage our money. So to start us off, we'll be utilizing an indicator which will tell us when to shut down our trade, and that indicator will be Bill Williams Accelerator Oscillator. Here it is, a zero line crossover histogram. You're not allowed to meddle with the indicator's settings, but we have selected the ever so elegant colors of green and red to represent when the accelerator value moves up or down. The accelerator oscillator is calculated by taking the value from the awesome oscillator indicator and subtracting from it a 5 period simple moving average of the awesome oscillator. And for those unfamiliar, the awesome oscillator is calculated by taking a 5 period simple moving average and subtracting from it a 34 period simple moving average. No more time to explain it here, video and description if need. When it comes to the strategy though, we are going to exit out of our trade if the accelerator oscillator closes across 0 against our trade. So if we're in a buy trade and the accelerator closes below 0, that's our exit, and vice versa for the sell. Even if our simple moving average or relative strength index changed to an obscure reading drastically against our initial entry signal, those indicators are only getting us into the trades. It has got to be the accelerator oscillator that gets us out of the trade from the indicator front. But don't worry, we are going to run our trade with a trailing stop loss on as well, as we don't want to rely entirely on the accelerator oscillator to get us out, no matter how mediocre we think it is. So if we're in a buy trade for the uptrend, we'll set our stop loss at the lowest low of price from the last 14 periods. That's the same amount of periods we're using for the RSI. Logical. And flippity flip for a sell trade, we'll set the stop loss at the highest high of price from the last 14 periods. It means that for each trade, we'll be able to measure out the distance in pips to our stop loss just before we enter the trade. So then we can decide how much of our capital we are willing to lose if price goes all the way to that stop loss. And I can tell you now that it will be 2% of our capital per trade that we are risking. So for example, if we're in a buy trade, the stop loss will, as we've said, be the lowest price of the previous 14 periods from our entry price. If price then goes against us and triggers the stop loss before the accelerator oscillator signals us to exit, then we'll have lost 2% of our capital. Seems like a reasonable amount to risk, unless you lose over and over and over and over, of course. The last notes for us then, we'll be trading the strategy on a 15-minute time frame, not too fast, not too slow. This one will hopefully be just right. And we're going to be looking for opportunities to trade on 3 different Forex currency pairs. We don't want to be looking at every single chart there is, taking signals up, down and middle, but at the same time, just sticking to one chart could leave us sitting on our hands with nothing to do for a time too long. Also, those 3 currency pairs will need to total 6 different currencies so that we're not overloaded all in on one particular currency. And so without further ado, we will spin the wheel, and the 3 currency pairs that we'll be using, they will be the New Zealand dollar US dollar pair, the Great British pound Canadian dollar pair, and the Euro Australian dollar pair. Those are our currency pairs, and sadly I was not born with a photographic memory, so we will have to journal the trades to make sure that when all is said and done, we can have a reasonable and accurate assessment of the strategy as a whole. Well, that's everything. Let's get into the platform and make some trades. These are the charts, and we do have their indicators pulled up as well. So this little purple line here, 80 period simple moving average. In fact, I call it purple colored, but it is clearly dark orchid. Anyone can tell that. Meanwhile, our RSI, we can see levels at 60 and 40, and the inputs 14 periods. Both are indicators applying themselves to the close of price, nothing controversial there. And just as a quick scan, I can see we're a bit away from a New Zealand dollar US dollar trade. That is currently 34, the RSI, so it would need to come up over this 40 level and then cut back through. So 2 moves needed for an entry signal there. Great British pound Canadian dollar, this is a lot closer. The RSI is floating around about 57. If this candle here was to turn green, closed in 5 minutes or so, if it was to turn green, the RSI likely would get above 60. And we can see the price is above the moving average, so we'd be in. Euro Australian dollar, this had a run up. We wouldn't have been able to get in on this move here. But now the RSI is down around 58. If we saw a green candle come, then price would be above the average as well. Definitely potential for a buy trade there. So those 2 on the right are the ones we're a little bit more focused on. But that doesn't necessarily mean something. I mean, even now on this center chart with the pound CAD, we can see RSI up at 59. We're going to have to watch this one. Just having a look, and if we were doing a stop loss from around about there or so to the lowest low of the last 14 periods, that would be that candle there. So you're looking around about 28, 29 pips if it came higher. And there we go. Now we do see the RSI move just a bit above 60. Before we dive into taking a look at our economic calendar for the day to see what events are on, let's just check this, because RSI is about to close above 60. We've got 2.5 minutes. 30 seconds until the close of the candle. It does look as though we are going to get the signal. Let's just measure that one more time. Around about 31 pips. That's what we're going to go for. That allows us to calculate our risk so we can open up for a new order. You can see how the risk is done on the screen. And there we are. The close comes, and so we can get into a buy trade here. This price comes back down. So let's set the stop loss first on the trade, just in case it does plummet against us. We better set a trailing stop loss for it. Customize that. Again, 31 pips, 310 points. Locked in. Now let's take a look. We can see the stop loss pretty close to the bottom there. And we better pull up a Bill Williams accelerator oscillator. Nothing to change here. And it is still good at the moment to our favor. If we see red candles like this though, and honestly, this right here, this green candle is looking like a very minor retracement on the pattern. Hopefully we're wrong and it's sort of making a range here to go back up. But right now we can see the RSI is going to dip below 60. That's not a close signal for us. But the accelerator oscillator has been pounding down from these red candles. And it will not take long to cross at all unless we see a reversal soon. No take profit, so we really are going to need to see a bump on the accelerator oscillator, hopefully before it comes back down, eventually crossing over. Although I've got a feeling it is going to come a lot sooner than that. Let's take a look at the economic calendar. Korean quarterly GDP coming in as forecast, but at least it's a boost, and at least it's not a miss on the forecast. It does give the yearly GDP an actual of 4% versus forecast of 7.6. Now that is a bit more of a miss, but people are paying closer attention to the quarterly. Also had Singapore industrial production month on month, negative 2.8 versus negative 4.2. Not a good reading, but better than the forecast, so there we go. And not a lot of events on our calendar today. 11:30 and 25 minutes, the Hong Kong trade balance. Nothing then until 3 o'clock in Brazil for the mid-month CPI. Speeches then at 3:45, both in the Eurozone. We've got the Bundesbank Vice President Bach making a speech. And we've got ECB Supervisory Board Chair Enria making a speech. Yes, they are the Eurozone, but not expecting them to have any impact. It will be a volatile time though once we get to 3:30 and it pushes through, especially on at 4:30. We are going to see a volume increase, a volatility increase. It's when the American markets open up, the New York Forex session, and then the stock exchange. We've got a couple numbers from the US as well. 4 o'clock, the house price index Composite 20, year on year, forecast at 19.6%. So the 20 part of it is that they look at 20 different regions of the US, big metropolitan areas. So I imagine it covers places like New York, Philadelphia, Los Angeles. But it is a year on year figure. So 19.6%. Yeah, classic house prices. And then more property news at 5 o'clock, new home sales. It's the monthly figure forecast at 0.722 million. That'll be an increase of 2.2%. And at the same time, at 5 o'clock as well, we've got the Conference Board Consumer Confidence Index. How are the consumers feeling about the economy? They survey about 3,000 households. All right, so yeah, not really any big times for us. I mean, 5 o'clock might have an impact, but generally we're just expecting more volume at 3:30 and then even more on top of that at 4:30. Those are going to be the big areas. If we are going to get spiked out, something like that could cause it. We can see our trade not going so well. Still away until the stop loss. I imagine it's going to get knocked out by the accelerator oscillator from this downward momentum. But the Euro Australian dollar, that looks like it's also getting close to a signal. It is. RSI at 59.42. Two barriers for this one to jump. Not only would the RSI have to get above 60, but it has to go far enough to get above the moving average. Gotta have both signals when the time comes, and we haven't seen a high in this period that's actually got there yet. We've got 6 minutes to go. See if that trade comes, as this one really plummets against us, and if it doesn't knock us out via the stop loss, then it will likely be a flip over of the accelerator oscillator at 11:15, and then a close on the period after that 11:30. But if it goes rapid like this, just another one or two of those candles, and that is it, gone, 2% of our capital. Let's keep a close eye on that. End of the period comes, and we don't get the signal on the Euro Australian dollar. On the pound Canadian, we do see the accelerator oscillator flip. We're already about $64 down, and it's a big flip as well, bigger than we would have hoped for, although not surprising from this momentum. So we'll need price to come back quite a way. I mean, even if it gets back above our entry price, at least we'd take profit then. I don't think it'd be enough to flip the accelerator still, but I wouldn't mind some profit. At the moment, not looking good. 14 minutes, 15 seconds to change that. 1 minute to go until the close of the period. We had come pretty close to actually getting all the way back up. You can see that high there, only about 1 pip off our entry price, but since then receded all the way back down. Meanwhile, Euro Australian dollar keeps threatening the signals to if price finishes above the moving average. The RSI will finish above 60 as well. Had looked for a few moments like we were almost certainly going to get an entry signal. Now it's dropped back down. Still potential, 20 seconds to go. Doesn't look like it's going to happen. This would have been our 14th candle, so up to there it's about 41, 42 pips for the stop loss. Meanwhile, close does come, pound Canadian dollar. It is not good for us. We have to manually close that one out because the accelerator oscillator has finished below zero. Would have been really nice to be back up at that high there. Let's pull up the trade history. Yeah, up there, only a couple pips off the entry. Granted, we would have paid for the spread as well, but it would have been around about $20, $30 loss maybe instead of 62, 63, which is what we face. Not a good start when we're less than an hour into the day. Just coming into 12 o'clock now. RSI is kind of loitering, certainly on the left and right, very close to the 50 center line. Our nearest signal is on the Great British Pound Canadian dollar again. You can see our previous trade there that we exited not too long ago. Price has made a rebound. It's almost backed up our entry price. RSI circling 57. If you saw another green candle like this, there's a good chance we'd be in with a buy trade up here somewhere. And the RSI storming above 60 on the Great British Pound Canadian dollar. We can see it currently at 64, and we have got 8 minutes left until the close of the candle, so about halfway through. Hopefully we get a bit of a pullback. Would rather get in if it's just over 60, around about 61. Don't want it pushing into new highs. It's already on a bit of a strong run these last few candles. System be systeming. Well, a pullback from this high up here at least, but still not the most confident in this entry position. It's going to be around about the high of the day. And let's just measure out that stop loss This is our 14th period right down here, so we can clip that on. We'll call it 31 points there. So you can see our risk calculated on the screen now, which means we are going to be getting in with a buy trade here. And there we go, right at the high of the day after the spread is taken into account. Doesn't look good for us. Potentially would have been nice if we were still in this buy trade if we hadn't been taken out, but there we go. Such is life. 310 points for the stop loss. And of course, we'll set it as a trailing stop loss as well. And this is a bit of a moment of truth. Has the accelerator oscillator flipped back above zero? It has. In fact, it closed their last period. So that is plenty good to see, which means we wait for that to reverse before we do any closing of the trade. Naturally though, we would like it to keep on going, have a stronger Great British Pound. Anyone as well who follows the Hong Kong trade balance, that did come in negative on forecast. It was negative 42 billion Hong Kong dollars against forecast of negative 33 billion Hong Kong dollars. We can only hope that this confidence in the pound from this run here is going to continue. Does look to me like we could be getting in at a resistance level though. Prove me wrong, chart, prove me wrong. You know, I was focusing so hard on the pound Canadian dollar trade that I've just noticed that we should actually be in a trade over here on the euro Australian dollar. We're still going to take it. Price hasn't run that far. We can see the RSI did close at 60.32 and this was above here. So let's calculate that. This is the low from the last 14 periods. That is wild. That is a frustrating low. Quite a big difference there, but that was 460 points, so we'll go for 46 pips. So there we go. That is our calculation done pretty quickly there. We should have been in this about 4 minutes ago, so that's a mistake on our part, getting too laser focused on the pound CAD. So here we go, in with 0.49. That's a buy trade for the RSI above 60 with price above the moving average. And our bumbling nature did actually get us a better entry position though, as price had come down a bit. Let's get the accelerator oscillator up and take a look at that. And pretty awkward on the accelerator oscillator. We can see it's still just below zero at the moment, so we need that to flip, which means we need to see a green candle come. Otherwise, it is going to be closing below zero. It does happen from time to time where the accelerator oscillator is the other side to where you expect it to be. But it is not part of our entry signals, only the exit. So we've got to follow that system to be technically correct. The best kind of correct. If you did want to add a filter on that said the accelerator oscillator has to be above zero for buy trades or below zero for sell trades, that I would understand. 2 trades going though now, neither of them to our favor, and we do get the flip on the accelerator oscillator. Gone to a positive value now as price surges up to new highs. It's good, so we get to stay in the trade assuming it closes that way in 3 minutes time, and then if it wants us to close out, it'll have to flip back the other way. Just had the close of the period and both of our trades are still good to carry on. Keeps us in hope of profit. Coming up to 1:15, pretty mixed on these trades. Pound Canadian dollar actually coming to our favor after a nice green candle here. But Euro Aussie dollar over on the right, that's gone reverse into red, not what we want to see. Let's look at this New Zealand dollar, US dollar though. Left hand side, we are actually seeing RSI currently pushing at 61.96. Looks like it will finish the candle there, and of course we see price above the average. This is our low from the last 14 periods, so we're looking at around about 22, 23 pips. We're going to go for 22, we'll call it. And with 22 pips, you can see how that gets us to the risk that we want. It's 2% right down to the bottom there, and we can enter a buy trade here. There we go. Spread's not the best as usual, but let's punch in that stop loss. 220 points, and we can see kind of near the low. Probably another pip in there, maybe 23 pips would have been slightly better for the risk, but we're in the region, so let's pop that trading stop loss in as well. 220 points, easy done. This trade, yeah, I'm not sure. Zoom back, it's right at a resistance level that we've seen here, here, here. Broke through there, but come back down. If it did break through again like that, we're absolutely fine with getting up to this resistance level, clearly. But it all seems a bit far. I think this price is going to see a retracement, and that might flip the accelerator oscillator. But speaking of, let's pull that indicator up. At the moment, nicely above the zero level, not too far out there. Been coming down off the back of these candles, but hopefully it pushes on, gets back up to these highs with some good momentum. Canadian dollar trade at the moment. That's got the most potential for us right now. I want to see that Euro Aussie dollar flip as well, otherwise the accelerator oscillator will start heading towards the zero line. Already on the way there. This is only going to speed up. Let's have a run like this again. Don't want to be in at the top of that. 1:45 now, and over here on the right, These charts are pretty convoluted. I don't like having as much stuff up as this. But anyway, over here on the right, Euro Australian dollar, we can see the accelerator oscillator down here. It's flipped zero. If it closes that way, which is pretty likely that it will, we'll be manually closing the trade off. So what we're hoping for now is a candle just out like this one over here. That would be ideal. Come all the way up. And even if it can't flip the accelerator, minimize our losses, maybe get us a little bit of profit. The other two trades just sort of loitering, not a lot going on. We did have a good high here on the pound Canadian dollar. Thought it was going to go on quite a run there. At the moment, though, receded from that high, leaving our fates still uncertain on these two charts. And it looks like we will be closing down this Euro Australian dollar trade for about a $25 loss. There it goes, manually shut down after the accelerator oscillator closes against us. At least we didn't hit another big red candle, just like that one. Of course, the worry that we're seeing with this strategy already, with the RSI at around about 54, we could see a couple green candles pump it right up above 60 and get us back into a buy trade near around about the same area that we got in the last time. For now, though, it is a loss $25.02, which puts us $87.65 down for the day. Started at $8,472.27. Not going well, but at least these two trades over here, the left and the center, they are moving in our favor. We want to see that continue, particularly this New Zealand dollar, US dollar. We can see big green candles coming. It's pushed into new highs. Let's have some more momentum with that. Just after 2:30, over on the right, the Euro Australian dollar. Looking like a good thing that we left the trade right there at the moment, as we did get two consecutive decent sized red candles and looking to form a third one as well. Meanwhile, Great British Pound Canadian dollar ticking along, been in a range for about the last hour or so, hasn't moved too much. Naturally, we would like to see another breakout, just like over here on the left, the New Zealand dollar, US dollar has been running really nicely to our favor. As long as we don't see a reversal in price, should eventually be some profit in this one for us. Currently, these two open trades, $167 up for us. If we end up closing them for around about that amount, we'd be in profit for the day. Great British Pound Canadian dollar, here's the flip on the accelerator oscillator. Not a super convincing one, but it is there. Assuming it closes like that, we'll be shutting out the trade. Be interesting to see where this candle goes from here. If it's one like the last few, almost certainly it will be a close. If it can find a new high, get up there quite a bit, and it might just turn it back and keep the trade open. Well, this is very disheartening. What a candle we've had here. Downwards and downwards, all for the 15 minutes. And when we close this off now, we're not even going to take any profit. That is very disappointing for us. We were about $50, $60 up. This is what we kind of expect with this. Try and get in on a bit of a push and then have a range consolidated where the accelerator oscillator goes back over. But it was just one period too late. If we got out of the initial crossover without the full close and confirmation, that would have been profitable. But sadly, as is, that is our third loss of the day, the second one on the pound Canadian. And so we are hanging our hats and our hopes on the New Zealand dollar, US dollar pair, which has been going red against us for the last 30 minutes or so. Doesn't mean that it won't be a retracement though, on a big move to come. There's potential. There's the flip on the New Zealand dollar, US dollar. We see accelerator oscillator across zero now. I've got that sinking feeling where I just see a large red candle in our near future. Really want to take home some profit on this one. Don't expect a giant red candle to reverse this accelerator, but just hope it doesn't plummet all the way down at a profit for a fourth consecutive loss. That would be pretty suboptimal. Our candle here had made a high to the good. It's only got 1 minute left now, but it's gone red. Looking like it's going to be the fifth consecutive red candle, cutting away at our profits more and more, down to $29 at the moment. We're keeping an eye on both these other charts as well, particularly the pound CAD. Quite a lot of red candles on the bounce, and it is almost pushing the RSI beneath 40. Same on the Euro Aussie. Price not below the average on the pound CAD, but these are both very close to a signal at the moment. 15 seconds until the close, and actually our candle on the New Zealand dollar, US dollar, very fortunate here, right at the end is going green. We are ready to cut this off. As soon as it rolls over, we want to take our profits. Don't want to risk this at all, not even for a second. There we go, shut it off. We have taken profits there. Brilliant stuff. And if we look over here, we can actually see RSI. What did it finish at? 40.66 by the look of it. Almost seems like it's touching through there. Can't see one pixel of it, but this is determined to tell me that it is 40.66 that it finished. So no entry for us on either of these just yet, but red candle comes on the Euro Aussie dollar. That'll get us in. 4 o'clock. We'll watch out for that 14.5 minutes time. But our trade finally back in at $57.76 from this one. Pretty good win in the end, only $43.98 down now. If this pound CAD one had just stayed up in that range there, we'd probably have been in a little bit of profit right now. Can't stay bitter about that one forever though. It's on to bigger and better things. Look at that, Euro Aussie 39. Very much watching for the sell trade to come on there. Hopefully momentum hasn't exhausted. Let's zoom back out. I mean, we've been caught out on a buy trade for this. Good thing that we stopped out there. Is this going to continue though? Let's see at 4 o'clock. And this trade is really going to be jumping onto the bandwagon. We've got 1 minute left until the close. Price has really plummeted the last few periods. Let's measure out our risk, which is from this high right here. It's the highest high from the last 14 periods. Well, at least price is receding a bit now. We are going to call it 50 pips for our calculation. And there we go. There is that close. It's telling us we can get into that sell trade. And so that we will do. Trailing stop loss. This is going to be way at the top. Not expecting to see that proc. And certainly not expecting to see this trade and stop loss get into effect. But we better set it anyway, just in case. There we are. Really am expecting a reversal and the accelerator oscillator to eventually flip in a few periods time and close it out for some form of a loss for us. Probably not much because of how far 2% capital is away. Quite a high there, but still some sort of loss expected. A bit of a crack on the system and how it can work. I noticed this looking over the New Zealand dollar, US dollar. Obviously we see our trade closed here. That was after the first histogram bar. Right down here we closed. If you look at the RSI here, 59.27, so that's come below 60, which means at the close of this candle here, it was at 61.78. So that is technically telling us to get into a trade right at the start of this candle, which is where we left the trade according to the accelerator oscillator. Fun times. Never saw a bandwagon we didn't love. The Great British Pound Canadian dollar giving us the same signal. We're already seeing the damage being done to us on the Euro Australian dollar. Almost $30 down there. Immediate reversal against our trade. Completely expected. Now, same thing on the Pound Canadian dollar. Let's measure out what our risk will be. We'll call that 41 pips to the stop loss. And so we know what our risk will be. The price is below our moving average. RSI 38, 39, thereabouts, floating up and down. But here comes the close. Many red periods in a row. Am I expecting more? No, not really, but that's our system for you. So there we go. 410 points on the stop loss, right at the top there. And let's trading stop loss that as well. Custom 410 points. Alrighty, could work. These charts going pretty wacky at the moment. Euro Australian dollar on the right, it's come back down price. We see a red candle that matched the previous green. Kind of near our entry price at the moment, although we do see it coming a little bit green at the moment. Could be instant reversal on an instant reversal. And the Pound Canadian, I thought it was going to be really nice for us. You can see where the low is down here, so it moved about 10 pips to the good and then retraced all the way back up to finish quite a bit green with a nice high there. Well, not nice for us, but nice for trading in favour of it, I suppose. That's how it's going at the moment. Uncertainty remains on both of our trades at the moment. They are still in a loss, around about $15–20 a piece, but we could certainly see downward momentum becoming a thing. Let's just do a quick update on the calendar. Brazilian mid-month CPI month on month for everybody following this, and I know a lot of my listeners are. 1.2% actual that came in against 0.75% forecast. Not surprising to see a Brazilian CPI actual higher than the forecast. Compared to other countries, they are having a relatively more of an inflation issue at the minute, as is the fashion in South America. 4 o'clock, that house price index Composite 20 year on year. It's pretty much as forecast, 19.7% versus 19.6% the forecast and 19.9% previous. These are, well, yeah, they're good figures for anyone that owns a house, obviously. Pretty poor figures for all the young folk out there that want to get on the market. Seeing these kind of rises is very disappointing for people like that. Unless, of course, your wages went up by that amount in the same year. Doesn't seem probable. And we're just waiting now for the new home sales month on month to come in, along with the Conference Board Consumer Confidence Index. All US dollar numbers still to come. And that is the last of the numbers for the day. After that, not even any speeches in the evening or any trading statistics. These are the last ones. And now we do have those numbers. It's positive for new home sales. With all this demand, it makes sense as to why the prices are up that much year on year. So we've had 0.8 million actual against 0.72 million forecast. So obviously that's up on the forecast and up on the previous as well of 0.74 million. Marked down as a percentage below. They got 8.1% actual against 2.2% forecast. So big beat for that. Customers happy for new home sales and also happy about the general economy as well and the mood of business. Conference Board Consumer Confidence Index actual 113.8 is the score against the forecast of 111.5. Not much of a beat, but still good to see for the dollar. 5:45, and we are seeing the accelerator oscillator flip here, only very narrowly finished beneath zero. Now it's above there. It's certainly looking like it is going to be a loss. So there's been a long range here, and this looks like the potential breakout. Euro Aussie dollar hasn't seen the flip just yet. Still beneath zero, but getting ever closer to there. If we see a green candle come, that'll flip as well. 15 seconds until we close down this trade on the Great British Pound Canadian dollar, and it did get a lot worse this candle. Big green has stepped into the market. The buyers are here. It's receded a little bit from that high, but in 1 second we shut it down. And so there we go. Let's have a look on the history. $63.99. That trade turned really poor. We didn't expect much because we knew it was coming really deep into a momentum run. Then we did get a bit of a surprise though, when price ran down quite nicely. Bounced back up though, stayed in a range, no problem with the range, but naturally the reversal comes, and had we closed once again before confirmation of the flip, but just once the accelerator oscillator flipped over, probably would have saved us about $30 or so. That candle was not appreciated at the end. Now we have just got a sell signal as well on the New Zealand dollar US dollar pairing, but it's getting a bit into the evening now. At 6 o'clock, just gone is the time. So we are going to ignore that signal. We're going to close off that chart, close off the pound CAD chart, and we're going to focus simply on our Euro Australian dollar trade. Watch that one out. Has been going quite nicely for us this last period. Around about $17, $18 to the good at the moment. Hopefully we get some more of that before this accelerator oscillator eventually reverses across that zero line. Almost 7 o'clock, and we're about to close off this trade. In 30 seconds, the accelerator oscillator moves above zero. And once again, we've been crushed on the confirmation candle. If we'd exited the trade here at the start of the candle when we saw the crossovers beginning, well, we could have left it around about flat, maybe a touch of profit. But as it is, we are going to close it when it rolls over 7 o'clock for another loss in the day. 6 trades, 5 losses. Oh, not good. Something I was concerned about to begin with was whether we'd be able to take profits well without using an actual take profit level, just basing it off a single indicator. And that hasn't really proven to be the problem yet. The problem at the moment seems to be getting into trades too late. It's like at that stage, price is already wanting to just about reverse. If we look at these Euro Australian dollar trades as the examples, we can see, I mean, if you're taking profit there, then you're not really giving it a chance to run at all anyway. So it's not going to be a good system if you're taking profit, 5 pips in on the 15-minute chart. And then vice versa here. You've got about 12, 13 pips down. So it's a little bit more room, but again, you're quick off the gun if you're taking profits around about that level. So unfortunately, a very poor day. Not the worst losses in the world. We end at $8,327.99 for the day. When we did have a winning trade, it was pretty nice, $57.76. But when you're running 5 losing trades for every 1 winning trade, you're unlikely to stay in profit. Hopefully we get some more consistent trends tomorrow, something a bit more lasting that really wants to push instead of just range and knock us out or reverse and knock us out. These crossovers are really doing us in. Looking out for a little bit more good luck tomorrow. Back for another session just after 11 o'clock, 11:01 and 32 seconds to be precise. And what have we had so far? Looks like we actually just missed out on a signal over here. The RSI dipped below. Wouldn't be going well so far in a sell trade there. Price be coming back up against us. And also previously a couple long trades here. That wouldn't have been good. Would have had to close that one out. Right down here. Ooh, 13 pip loss. And a long trade here, which would have got closed out at the bottom there for about 7 pips again. What about the pound CAD? Even worse. Look at these last few periods. This is outrageous. Massive buyers. Sellers come in. Basically do the exact mirror move. Knock it back down. And here we have price bouncing up. In fact, let's take a look at that on the 1-minute chart. Yeah, you are going to get destroyed if you are trading that. And would we have had any good signals? That would have been a sell signal, which got closed out. In fact, we might have got in beforehand. I think that probably would have actually been the entry point. Well, that wouldn't have been terrible, actually. That would have been a 6 pip win in the end. Not so shabby. And the euro Australian dollar, this is actually giving us a buy signal now. I think the last period, did that finish below? It did. 59.78 for this period on the RSI. So at the moment, if it closes like this, that'll be a buy trade. Could work out for us. We'll see in about 10 minutes or so if we get the signal. So it looks like it would have more potential than this pound CAD chart this morning. That really is whipsaw city. In the meantime though, let's have a look at our economic calendar, see what events we've got on today. In the Asia session, we had New Zealand dollar trade balance coming in negative 2 billion actual against forecasts of negative 1 billion. And the ANZ business confidence, that was a miss as well, negative 13.4. Forecast was positive 2. New Zealand businesses not happy in their surveys, at least, about the economic development over the next 12 months. Not ideal score for them. What about in Australia? 3:30, they had CPI quarterly, 0.8% actual versus negative 0.4% forecast. Is that right, that forecast? Did the forecasters really expect a deflationary environment over the last 3 months in Australia? That's pretty poor forecasting in my opinion, if that's a true number. And into the European session, what have we had? Consumer climate from Germany in the Eurozone. Decent beat for them actually. Consumers feeling not too shabby. 0.9% actual against negative 0.4 forecast. Bravo, bravo. 9:45 French PPI month on month. Not so good. 1.7% actual. And the forecast was 0.7%. That's on a previous of 1% as well. So a 2.7% increase on the PPI in the last 2 months. Yikes, even 0.7% for this month wouldn't have been an ideal number. Still want it a bit lower than that, but 1.7, no good. Inflation concerns continue, at least in France, for a little bit. And then 10:30, 35 minutes ago, we did have the goods trade balance from Sweden. Nice win for them on that, 6.3 billion krona versus a forecast of negative 1.8 billion. No numbers until we get into the afternoon. 1 o'clock, French job seekers total. 2 o'clock, Mexican trade balance. That'll be decisive. 3 o'clock, Brazilian unemployment rate 3 months, but the PPI month on month, that'll be interesting. It's forecast at 3.49%, and I've got the feeling that it's going to be even higher than that, maybe above 4 or so. Not that I follow the Brazilian economy that closely, but I do know they have had big inflation concerns. 3:30 US dollar durable goods orders month on month and core durable good orders month on month. Then same time we've got their goods trade balance and of course retail inventories month on month. That'll be the time we'll want to be laser focused then. Likely price is going to get a big increase in volatility volume as it's just that time of day anyway. 3:30, 4:30 in that range. That's when we're looking at the peak. But then as we get into the evening, 5 o'clock, Bank of Canada interest rate decision and monetary policy report. Interest rates currently at 0.25%. I imagine it will stay there, but central banks are getting a little bit twitchier about it at the moment. So you never know, they might hint that they're going to raise it at a certain point down the line, dropping clues just so they don't come out of nowhere. But there's always potential for a wild card, so worth being aware of that. 5:30, oil stocks change. That shouldn't affect us, but if you are on oil, it is Wednesday, so hopefully you're aware of that. Then a real trail off into the evening with a few speeches. 6 o'clock, the Bank of Canada Monetary Policy Report press conference. 6:20, ECB President Christine Lagarde making a speech. And 7 o'clock, Bundesbank Executive Board member Bierman also making a speech. Let's get back on the charts and have a look at how they're doing. This trade entry looking pretty likely. At least price has come down at this minute. 3.5 to go. And the pound Canadian is a really bad chart. That is not one to be trading every time I look at it. New Zealand US dollar, if we had been in time for that one, yeah, it'd be going favourably at the moment. Whether that move is sustained, time will tell. Let's prepare ourselves for this trade entry. Looking at the last 14 periods of the Euro Australian dollar, find the lowest low, which is down here. So it's about 43 pips. That's what we're going to call it, 43. Starting the day at $8,327.99. Means at a 2% risk to this distance in this trade, we will be risking $166.56. You can see how our risk is calculated on screen. And let's buy. Set the stop loss, of course, 430 points should come. Yeah, just a little bit below the bottom, but that is absolutely fine. Makes up for the spread. And now we wait for the accelerator oscillator to flip against us, whenever that may be. Probably not very long. 3 consecutive big pouncing candles here. Doesn't make for a good move, I don't think. But hopefully it's just a retracement that comes on the red, and we see an overall trend continue before the accelerator oscillator flips. Bit of a move happening here on price. This is what we want to see. Nice push for the green on our trade. Meanwhile, you see the reverse on the New Zealand dollar, US dollar. If you were in here, this would be a nice trade right now. There might even be potential for the trailing stop loss to kick in if you were trading that one. That would be the high there, about 20 pips. Be getting close, would be getting close. This is just some general contrast between the type of charts that I imagine you would want versus the type of charts that you can get. The New Zealand dollar, US dollar, and the Euro Australian dollar, the two charts on the flanks, those are actually making nice moves. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to continue, but you can see a sort of trend going on. Whereas if you look down the center at the Great British Pound, Canadian dollar, look at this candle already, 3 minutes, and it's plummeted back down, or it's plummeting back down. The whips are on this. I mean, in the last 2.5 hours, look at how it's bounced up and down. I would say those are the charts that you don't typically want, but if you've got a strategy for that, good on you. Just coming into 12:15, and price has come off the top quite a bit, and more than we would like to see. Hopefully a green candle comes now. Well, this type of consolidation up here rather than the reversal. If it consolidates, the accelerator oscillator eventually drifts across zero as price stays in a range. We take profit up here. We're still about $50 up at the moment, so that's pretty good. And this pound Canadian chart still absolutely wacky. Glad it hasn't given us any entry signals, because that would almost certainly be losers. Look at the accelerator oscillator for it. 4 or 5 flips there in the last 2 and a bit hours. If you were taking 0 line crossover entry signals from that, you'd be in trouble. 1/4 and we're seeing the flip on the accelerator oscillator. Only a small flip, not a big one. The price has been coming down quite a bit. The low, in fact, almost put us into a loss. So this is a pretty crucial candle. Don't mind getting out of the trade, but would like to see a minor green candle come. Just don't let it be like yesterday where we end up taking a big loss on the last candle before we get out. 5 seconds to go, and it is coming right down to the wire. At the moment, it's looking like a loss. We're going to have to close it. There we go. It is a loss. We just missed out on profits as we see the candle come green a touch, but who knows where it's going to go from now. Probably back up into a buy signal in a couple periods. Yeah, damn, that's disappointing. That's another disappointing one where the last candle has really stuck the sword in us. At a high up here, it looked good. It looked good. $80, $90, something around that we were up by. And we were hoping for more of these kind of candles right here. Ones where it doesn't really move, just consolidates around the area. Even on the New Zealand dollar, US dollar, there's been a bit of a retracement, but not as much compared to the jump down. This no good at all, this trade. So we can see we do lose $5.85 in the end. And it does seem like it is a case once again of the RSI getting us in too late and the accelerator oscillator getting us out too late. Meanwhile, still thankful that we're not in on the Great British Pound Canadian dollar. That price has not sorted itself out yet. Be interesting to see if there's a breakout there. Very nearly giving us the signal in here on the Euro Australian dollar again. Just a couple periods after, and we can see the RSI up at 59 as we go into the close. Doesn't give it to us this period, but if we see a green one just like that, we could get into a buy trade somewhere around here. Something to look forward to. Eyeing up a potential signal on the Great British Pound Canadian dollar. Could still retrace. RSI around about 39 at the moment, floating up and down, 39.62 there. So measure out our risk just in case we've got to enter. That's the highest high up there from the last 14. Currently around about 32 pips to the stop loss. That's what we're going to go for. Our risk is calculated on screen now. Is it going to come? It does. 39.71 was the finish. Let's just double check that. Yeah, 39.71 as it jumped back above 40. Let's sell trade there. Already lost a bit of a dip there from thinking for a moment, but that is absolutely fine. Let's set that stop loss 320 points and let's trail it again. Why not? A little bit hopeful about this one, surprisingly. I know we've had a run on price already, but after this crazy range that's been happening up here, this whipsaw action, could be possible this is a genuine breakout. 2:15, the Euro Australian dollar keeps lurking on that 59 for the RSI, very nearly getting signals back in. Nothing yet though. And our Great British Pound Canadian dollar trade has retraced about half, 2/3 the amount from where it once was. Hopefully that's just a consolidation candle before a continued downward trend. Does look like the signal is going to come on the Euro Australian dollar. Quite tight on the stop loss as well. We're going to call that 19 pips towards it. Could still drop below though. It's only at 60.1. Very narrow. If the price comes back a bit, we could see that signal disappear. 3 seconds to go. Where's it going to land? It drops beneath, and in fact we don't get the signal. It finishes at 59.5. So once again we are kept out. Look at how tight the RSI is to that 60 level there. Every period we think we're going to get the signal and it just doesn't quite come. Meanwhile, we're watching our pound Canadian dollar trade get a bit destroyed at the moment. $65 down. You can see we got it around about here. Let's put the trade history on so we can see the entry. Yeah, not the worst of the start. We did get a nice run in. If you were going to take profit within 16 pips, you would have taken profit. But if you weren't, yeah, it's not looking so good for you now. And the accelerator oscillator, big green candle, might flip it this period. But if not, we will certainly see it turn at the next period. Getting ready to close down this trade on the pound CAD in about 40 seconds or so. It is a really bad loss that's going to occur. We're around about $95 at the moment. Not a good sign for the strategy, but as one bad trade closes, so another will open. We're looking over here on the left on the New Zealand dollar, US dollar. Everybody who trades, let me know if this is a buy trade that you would take right at the peak of this candle here, because that's what we're going in for. That's what the system is telling us to get in. It is about 34, 35 pips to the bottom there, so that is going to be what we go in for. And so first off, let's close this trade down for $95. Shocking. And now let's look at our New Zealand dollar, US dollar. It's going green a bit. We're probably already missing part of that signal, but here we go. We are in with 0.49 volume, and I guess we'll buy. Oh dearie me. Stop loss, yeah, towards the bottom there, and we'll trail that too. If this trade makes money, I'm not going to lie, I will be amazed, really amazed. That's cool though. Let's check our economic calendar for a bit of an update on what's been going on. We had the job seekers total from France back at 1 o'clock. That was 3.2 million actual job seekers against 3.49 million forecast. So a little bit of a beat there for them. Mexican trade balance negative $1.69 billion against forecast of negative at 2.9 billion. All right for them. 3-month unemployment rate in Brazil 13.2% against a forecast of 13.3%. Better than the previous of 13.7 as well. And you know what? They'll be happy with this PPI. Thought it was going to come in even higher, but 0.4% they've managed there, month on month for that. Forecast at 3.49. I really thought we could have seen a breach of 4 with this one. Previous 1.89. They've managed to keep it under control, the producers. Now we've just got 12.5 minutes until the US numbers come in. Durable goods orders, core durable goods orders, trade balance, retail inventories month on month. Numbers to watch out for. We've got our numbers through. The durable goods orders month on month came in negative 0.4% versus a forecast of 0.8%. Quite a bad miss there, 1.2% less than the forecast. Meanwhile, core durable goods orders month on month up by 0.9% against the forecast, 0.4% actual against negative 0.5% forecast. Don't really know what to make of that. One pretty big miss, one pretty big beat. I guess they balance each other out. Well, certainly in terms of priority, they give a little bit more to the core durable goods orders, and that was the beat. So we'll assume that might have been good for the US dollar. Goods trade balance, negative $96 billion against a forecast of negative $88 billion. Touch of a miss there. And then we've had retail inventories month on month, actual negative 0.2 against a forecast of 0.1%. Not a lot in that one, and not a lot in those numbers in general. Canada's interest rate decision next at 5 o'clock, just over an hour's time. We'll know pretty quickly if they make any crazy decisions. But as we look on the chart, let's bear in mind this Euro Australian dollar. It's ranged for quite a while. We got out there, the end of this candle, the start of this candle, and that is the lowest close we've seen since then. Price is now trickling up a bit. It's getting towards the high of the range, and it could see us in with the RSI. You can see it floating above and below 60. Could be a close one at 12 minutes until we know about that. So we were watching the Euro Australian dollar thinking maybe we'll get a trade there. But actually the pound Canadian dollar has come through with a buy signal here. RSI up in 62. We're going to call that 53 pips. We really don't want to take this trade. This is the type of trade that you take if you want to be a bag holder, right? You wait until everybody's bought as much as they can, and then you jump in right at the higher price. We can see what's happening over on the New Zealand dollar, US dollar pair. So let's buy the market. There we go. We're in 53 pips. Hopefully shouldn't be much of a loss because of how far that trailing stop loss is. But I can't believe this system has done this to us. Yesterday, I did think it was a bit of bad luck maybe that was getting us down. But our luck hasn't even been too shabby in this. It's just been bad signals left and right and centre. Still potential for a trade on the Euro Australian dollar if that pushes above 60. Finally looks so it's going to give us that signal above 60 on the RSI. This is our low. It's quite a tight low actually. We'll call that 25 pips. And so we can buy the market. This one could be set for a run potentially. Like, this is still in a range really. This close is not beating out the high from there. So this one, not the worst signal in the world. You can see our risk calculated on screen now for it. So let's buy that. As I've just done that risk, by the way, I've noticed the volume on the pound CAD trade should have actually been at 0.39 instead of 0.49. Very risky stuff, very risky. Never happy with an unforced error though. Let's set our stop loss on this Euro Australian dollar trade before we get another one. There it is. So this is one where it could genuinely hit the stop loss. A lot of them, like the pound CAD, this seems so unlikely that it's going to get all the way down there. Hence why we can be fake upset about the volume amount. But this has a genuine chance of getting down there. And it's also got a genuine chance of potentially getting a trailing stop loss going. We'll see. We've now got buy trades on all three of these charts. Down on all of them at the moment for around about $47, $48 total. Hopefully one of them comes good for us. In case you can't tell, the accelerator oscillator, it is above zero, just about here, 0.000380. So we won't have to close down the trade if it finishes like that. It is a positive value. Nearing in now to 5 o'clock, 10 seconds time. Let's look at these trades. I tell you what, the New Zealand dollar, US dollar, yeah, it's up a little bit for us at the moment. I'm going to start with that as a bit of good news before we move into the other two. The Great British Pound, Canadian dollar, wow, that's just gone. That is the interest rate decision, and it has whipped out our stop loss there. Took, well, you saw about a second. Stop loss goes over there on the Euro Australian dollar as well. So that is two trades instantly gone as soon as 5 o'clock hits. Would have been nice if it was going the other way, like possibly this New Zealand dollar, US dollar trade. Might we see that going green a bit? Yeah, you should be selling off the pound here in favour of the CAD. And it filled us so much lower than our stop loss. And this was the trade that we had the incorrect volume in. Of course, it screws us. That moves so quickly. We had the stop loss at 1.70240, and it actually stopped us out at 1.70153. 9 pips. 9 pips after our stop loss, it triggered us out. At least, to be fair, on the Euro Aussie dollar, it was about there. Only 3 pipettes lower on that one. So no issue with the Euro Aussie dollar, apart from it being a terrible trade that turned immediately against us. We're not going to be taking these trade signals, by the way. We are finished on these two charts for the day, the pound CAD and the Euro Aussie. And so, yeah, we end up, oh man, $244 on that pound CAD trade. Would have been great if it went the other way. It's mad though, they'll have just said they're holding interest rates. Crazy, crazy stuff. Terrible trades. I had some faith in the Euro Aussie dollar, I did. I thought, well, it's just come out of range. It hasn't had a big move. There's potential for a big move there. We don't get it though. So let's get rid of that Euro Australian dollar. This pound CAD keeps going down. As I say, we were pretty sure this trade was going to be a loss, and similar to that Euro Aussie dollar, we were in right at the very top. This is literally the peak. And the full stop loss with the too much volume. Let's just set those aside and focus in on the New Zealand dollar, US dollar, our last trade of the day. Maybe we'll be able to get some profits out of it. I didn't think so when we first started, and I still don't think so, but we are currently about $60 up. Better than being $60 down. Let's see what happens. That was appalling. I'm sorry, I can't stop laughing at how bad the strategy is. And in case anyone was wondering if this big spike downward comes off the back of any change in interest rates, it doesn't. They just held 0.25%. Quite a big red candle just coming. Surprisingly, the accelerator oscillator holding above zero. It's 6 o'clock in 5 seconds time, and we'll be closing off the trade as the accelerator oscillator is going to finish slightly beneath zero. So let's shut that down. That was a loss, a modest loss of $20.58 on a very humbling day for the strategy. That's what it's looking like on the three charts. If we had got in a sell trade here on the CAD, well, we wouldn't be out of it yet, but really it was only this first period that took a nosedive. A lot of trading on the hour for the interest rate decision, and then no more movement. So that was pretty poor. The Euro Aussie dollar, yeah, it's been ranging. It did find a low. Very poor day though, very poor. 5 trades, 5 losses. It didn't even get the win like we did yesterday. And the actual losses that we took, catastrophic. $533.95 down. Just terrible. Really? One more day of trading this? Yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll be back for one more session to see if there are any redeeming qualities for the relatively simple strategy. Session 3, our final session. How are those charts looking? New Zealand dollar, US dollar, looks like there would have been a buy trade just on the previous candle right here. We'll watch and see how that one goes. Or in fact, if you'd got in about half an hour previous, you could be in a little bit higher up here. Both opportunities there. Loosely using the word opportunity, of course. Great British Pound, Canadian dollar. Again, buy signal. Let's have a look closer. So the RSI goes from 58 to 68 by the end of this candle. So it seems like you'd be in right at the tippy top here. Well, it might not be the tippy top. It might plow on. It seems unlikely. Here's a buy entry that would have worked. You'd have got in at the end of this candle here, and because the accelerator oscillator didn't flip, you would have actually had to close it at the top of the next green candle. You'd take about 13-14 pips in that one. Oh my god. Those are two charts that would already have buy trades in motion. The closest one to giving us a signal is this Euro Australian dollar. You can see it's been coming down for the Asia session, and the RSI around about 42, 43 at the moment. If this is a retracement on price, these last two candles, and we see red start coming again, should get a sell signal from that. Let's check our economic calendar, see if there's any events today, any interest rate decisions. Yeah, quite a lot on. We'll just hit the big ones. Brazilian Central Bank raised their interest rates from 6.25% to 7.75%. Now that's a sign of the inflation that they're facing. Japan retail sales month on month, 2.7% actual versus 1% forecast. Not too bad for the monthly, but it does put the yearly on a negative 0.6 actual against 3.5% forecast. Bank of Japan interest rate decision, that was about 5 hours ago. Held at negative 0.1% from the previous, no change there. Into the European session then at 10 o'clock, just about an hour ago, we got CPI and unemployment from Spain in the Eurozone. There's CPI, the Consumer Price Index, the inflation number, month on month, 2% actual against 1.4% forecast. Not good to see 2% actual, that is around about the yearly target, and that's just for a month. Unemployment rate down a bit as well there, 15.26% was the previous. Forecasted to come down to 15.07, but even better, 14.57% for them. Spain obviously having struggled with unemployment for a long time anyway. Swedish GDP quarterly, that's a beat on the forecast, 1.8% actual against a flat 0.0% forecast. Unemployment numbers from Germany should have come out a couple minutes ago. Those might feed through as we speak. In the afternoon, PPI numbers come through, 12:30 South Africa, 1 o'clock Italy, then 2:45 the European Central Bank interest rate decision. Could get spiky then. We are trading the euro against the Australian dollar. Hopefully if we are in a trade, it goes our way. 3 o'clock CPI from Germany month on month. I think it's been the last 3 times they've held at 0.0%. Now they're in fact expecting a slightly deflationary at negative 0.2. And half an hour later, 3:30, big US dollar numbers. GDP quarterly, forecast at 6.7%, same as the previous. Wouldn't be a terrible figure, but who doesn't like a beat? And of course, Thursday's weekly initial jobless claims. There was a forecast of 289,000. After that, pending home sales, month on month. Had new home sales on Tuesday, and now we get the pending. Other than that, a few speeches peppered in, but we'll be watching out for the big US numbers and of course the ECB interest rate decision. It's about to be 11 o'clock. We better check whether we're getting a signal or not, but we shouldn't see any major action from these events until 2:45 onwards. No signal as the clock moves past 11. Both of these two charts, the New Zealand dollar, US dollar, the pound Canadian dollar, their RSI values are shifted below 60. So as you can see there on the pound Canadian, that was 59.4. If we get a green candle, it's even a small one like this, you can see it tilts the RSI over to 61, above 60. So there's potential for a buy trade coming shortly. And the same principle applies to the New Zealand dollar, US dollar, just we're not seeing it turn green that much yet. Let's wait and see. 1 minute to go, and the pound CAD does look like it's going to come through with the signal. Let's prep ourselves for that. Here's the lowest low right down here from the last 14 periods. Call that 32 pips. Did look for a minute like the New Zealand dollar, US dollar was also going to give a signal up at that high, but it's backed off from there now. But we are going to get it on the pound CAD. So we've measured 2% risk down to the low there. You can see how our risk is calculated on screen now, and we're going to buy. And of course our stop loss can go in, and so too can the trading stop loss, 320. Based on the previous performance of these entry signals, I'm not too confident about where we're going to go with this trade. The accelerator oscillator has already been coming down from these sort of lower candles than this high, so we definitely need to reverse that momentum with a green candle or two. Trade number 1 of the day Coming up to the end of the second period and our trade on the pound CAD. Oh, it's been rough times out there. The accelerator oscillator still ever so slightly above zero, so it does look so we are going to have to endure one more candle of this. Could take us to the stop loss. We're about 2/3 of the way there. It's pushing even more. We honestly want to see this flip over and just save us some money. This is no good once again. Bad start to the morning. And we are looking over as well at the Euro Australian dollar because the RSI just hovering around 40. When it was at this low, it was beneath 40, which would signal us in for an entry. And it's still very close. So we're going to measure out the risk just to be sure. That is 35 pips, and we are getting the signal from it. We can see that it closed below there, 35.71. So you can see exactly how it's all calculated on screen, and we can get in there at 0.59. There we are, selling off the euro, 12 o'clock, and we got to close out these trades. The accelerator oscillator closing against them, so both they go there. Yeah, the accelerator oscillator on the euro Aussie dollar started on the wrong side for us. For a minute there, we were in profit at this low. We were looking like we were going to take $6 or $7. That would have felt really nice. But no, we start the morning off with 2 losses, plain as day. And of course, our pound CAD, terrible one, right in at the peak, up here. Reversal comes. At least we got a green candle for the last period. Save us some money there. So we're at $108.09 down for the morning. On the Euro Aussie dollar, it does look as though it's going to be getting us back in. RSI reading 39. Only got outstarted last period. Now to close this one, we've seen a red candle and the RSI is beneath 40. Is it going to close there? Ooh, that was pretty close. I think it did just about close under there, 39.87. So it is leading us in. If we were a robot, we'd be taking this trade. So let's sell off the market once again. 34 pips to the stop loss, so we can set that there. Almost 1:15, and it's going to be time to shut down our trade in 10 seconds time on the Euro Australian dollar. It is a loss, of course. It's going to be around about $55, $60. Let's close that off now, and the final figure is $57.68 lost. We got in here, we got back in, and then 3 straight candles that just run against us, especially this last one, and we close it down for loss number 3 of the day. 0-3, no surprise at all based on what we've seen the last 2 days. Very close to being 3rd times the charm on the Euro Australian dollar chart. You can see we exited the trade up here. That was our sell trade. Since then, 3 red candles have come in a row, and so we can hop right back in with the accelerator oscillator above zero. We're going to get into a sell trade, 39.77. So you can see all our risk calculated on screen. Let's sell it off. We already know what's going to happen, and we've only narrowly avoided a trade on the New Zealand dollar US dollar pair as well. It was floating around about the 60 level. Again, if it had got us in, or if it gets us in after this candle, it's going to be right up at the resistance level after the move has already occurred. The RSI with levels at 60 and 40, it is incredibly slow at getting us in. Haven't come across a move we didn't already miss. We're about to close down this trade in 3, 2, 1, and it is profitable. Would you believe it? Look at that. $7.34. We are in the money. That's a gain. We can chalk that up. We'll be seeing green tonight. Even though the accelerator oscillator has crossed zero, it closed above zero, but we managed to make a little bit back. Only $158.43 down for the day now. We are very close to a sell signal on the pound CAD. Could finish below 40, but here comes the ECB interest rate decision, so it doesn't cross that 40 level. Finishes at 40.14. And you see the lack of spike this time when they announced the interest rate decision. 245 ECB Eurozone. No movement on any of these charts, not even the Euro. Be interested to see how the volume candle finishes. And we have seen an increase in volume on all 3 of these pairs. It does come through with increased trading. And it's very close to giving us a signal on the Euro Aussie dollar. Again, a sell signal. Is it going to come? We're going to roll over in 1 second. It doesn't quite come. It really looked like it was going to when it was down here all the way through these lows. We were prepping for that. The pound CAD was also giving us a sell signal for a moment, but backed off from that. And the interest rates themselves were held at 0.00%. And now we are getting both those sell signals. Let's look at the pound CAD first. RSI at 35. Would have been nice to get the sell signal last period. Let's get ready with that one. You can see our risk on screen. 0.51, and that's a sell. And then over to the Euro Aussie dollar. 30 pips to the stop loss for this one. That highest high is where we got out of our sell trade last time. And so now let's get back in. 4th time's the charm. This is the 4th time we're selling off the market on the Euro Australian dollar. So if it works out, just to update on some of the numbers we've been getting as well. Unemployment rate in Germany came down to 5.4% from the forecast and previous of 5.5. Producers price index in South Africa month on month 0.9 actual against 0.6 forecast. A bit high, just like everyone else, not as high as Italy though, 1.6%. That was what was forecast, but still not what they would have wanted. And then we had CPI from Germany at 3 o'clock. It didn't give that deflationary forecast of negative 0.2%. It came in at 0.5%. Quite a bit higher than the forecast, but as I say, they have kept it flat for the last few months, so they're not doing as bad with it as some of the other countries out there. GDP quarterly from the US with initial jobless claims in 10 minutes time. Very unusual flash crash in price there on the left side two charts. Wasn't enough to prop the trading stop loss, so not sure what happened there. Here comes the bounce, and it does wipe our stop loss out on the Euro Australian dollar for the worst trade of the day, $153.81 loss. Like a lot of these trades, I feel like I'm repeating myself. It was looking pretty good, and then it bounced right against us. How far did that one go? About 14 pips, so maybe if you're rocking a 10 pip take profit, 12 pip, could be good, could be good, could be better than this, that's for sure. The GDP quarterly numbers on the US dollar did come in at quite a miss, only a 2% actual against 6.7% forecast. Not the best reading for them. And the initial jobless claims were pretty close to the forecast, 281,000 actual against 289,000. And the stop loss also hits on our pound Canadian dollar trade. So that is a full and complete loss there, $152.60. We did have that flash down in price. Don't know what it was. Whatever it didn't put the trading stop loss in place, and price, well, you can see what's happened. That's our entry, 2 big green candles since then, and our stop loss gets wiped out, $464.84 down for the day. And we are going to call it there for the day. I don't see any other way back for the strategy. Been trading about 5 hours today, a little bit shorter than our usual sessions, but as I say, every signal seems to be a loser with this one. And we see the Euro Australian dollar offering up a buy trade for 10 minutes time. Currently the RSI at 65, and I really don't think that's going to be a good buy trade. So we are going to finish it there with a terrible day's trading, particularly on the Euro Australian dollar. Kept getting taken out in the range, and then when it finally looked like we might have a good thing going, big time reversal. The stop loss did save us some money. As I say, right now we'd be down about $300 or so if we were still in it. Gotta look for some sort of silver lining. Seeing a sell signal come on the New Zealand dollar, US dollar in our near future as well, and I don't think we want to take that. That is our final session, so let's just round off all of our trades over in the journal. Here's the journal in all its glory. Let's go to the bottom line first. A loss of $1,143.07. That's just in 3 days, and with proper risk management as well. Started at 8,472, now down at 7,329. 17 trades across the 3 days, averaging just over 5 trades a day. And believe it or not, this first day was actually the best day. Things were a bit more reasonable. We were hoping this New Zealand dollar US dollar trade here that gave us the win. Those were the kind of wins we wanted. As I explained, you get the move, and then when it ranges, when price just ranges, the accelerator oscillator eventually just drifts back over, and then you close the trade after getting the gains for the first move. That did happen one time, but a lot of the time, honestly, it was reversals against us, or reversals within a bigger range than what we were working with. We got to the second day, things started getting really bad. We had the interest rate decision that sort of screwed us on both days actually. 2 different interest rates decision. The Bank of Canada one immediately knocked us out of these 2 trades, and that's what really put it into us. $244 and $167, terrible losses, and it didn't get any better into day 3. We did get that one small gain, which we're taking pride in, so it doesn't show us all red across the board. And the start of the day, these kind of losses, well, you could expect them as reasonable. It really does feel unfortunate when it gets your stop loss, because that's either the lowest low or the highest high of the last 14 periods, and it's against what the trend is telling you to do. So anyway, that does end the pain of that one. Probably the worst strategy I've done in live forward testing so far. Let's give our final thoughts before we finish. First major thought is that the results for this strategy speak for themselves. There's no hidden interpretation to be had. It went badly. And who designed it doesn't matter, we're not going to out them for that one. It was me, I designed it. Honestly, in backtesting, it looked okay. Tried out for a few hours and had a couple winning trades, so went with it. But live forward testing has truly exposed it for what it's like. When it comes to our entry indicators, the RSI getting to a reading above 60 or below 40 just got us in too late. Many times we entered into the trade at the near end of a price move, as we would quickly see a retracement or reversal against us, enough to get us out at least. You could try light entry signals at the 55-45 levels, but does breaking a minor amount from the center line of the RSI really justify jumping into a trade? Not so sure. It's also worth mentioning that our moving average filter didn't actually filter out any signals at all. Even at a bit of a longer 80 periods, it would see us in every single time the RSI gave its signal. So both of our entry indicators performing pretty poorly, and the accelerator oscillator for our exit indicator getting us out of the trades, that didn't do so good either. Generous way to put it. The accelerator didn't have a sweet spot for us. It definitely would get us out too early and would regularly get fooled by price retracements. We did get punished a few times by the final bar as the accelerator oscillator crossed over zero. If all of our trades were brought forward by one period, the results would look a bit better. Not much, but a bit. If you still wanted to try the accelerator oscillator as an exit indicator, then switch it up to anything else. Like if two histogram bar colors move against your trade direction, maybe that will work out for you. There's no other words for it, to be honest. Try the strategy if you're in the middle of a race to the bottom with someone, otherwise avoid it like the plague. So that's it from us, but there's a good chance we will be back trading this strategy again, but in the exact reverse. That's right, it went so badly for us that it's one of those strategies where we think that if we flip the whole thing on its head, maybe we can be profitable. Watch out for that, and if you do want any more information on either the indicators or the strategy used here, then there is some more of that in the description for you. And just in case you were concerned, all of these trades were taken with demo money, and we won't be jumping onto this strategy with real money anytime soon, I would imagine. Thank you if you did actually make it to the very end of this strategy. Wouldn't blame anyone for dropping out 5 minutes in. The writing was on the wall. This is Project Trade. I am Adam Smith's final descendant, and there will be more.